Alright guys, here we're talking about the movie The Puppet Masters. 1994's The Puppet Masters. Lee, had you seen it before?
Yes!
I had not seen this one before.
Are you fucking kidding me?
This one was in the comments as a recommend, and I was like, all right, let me see what that is.
For the people.
We read the comments.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so I looked at the IMDb and I was like, all right, that looks pretty good.
So I had vague memories of this movie, of like liking it, but also of knowing in my heart that it was not going to hold up, that it was bad, and I was just desperate for like this. And then later, like Independence Day comes out, other movies come out, and like that, and like mentally, it just like replaced this movie. For, you know,
I can see that
in my head. But I still like things about it. I think as a film, it's not tremendous. You as a first timer, how do you feel about it?
So like this is an earlier version of like, you know,
Body Snatchers?
Well, I would say this is very similar to like The Faculty to me.
Oh, yes.
I like The Faculty better, but it had the advantage of being like, you know, 4 years later or whatever than this. But like this one feels like a very well-made, high-budget bad movie.
Sure.
So like it doesn't have a lot of the elements, a lot of things I could pick apart here and there through this.
Yeah.
But it has some fun actors. It's got some fun concepts. I love me some Keith David. Donald Sutherland's always a treat.
Yeah,
I think some of the practical effects in this movie are really good. I like the ideas of some of these things, and then some things are just totally outlandish and ridiculous. But I think that it does come together to be a fun movie for a first time.
Yeah, I think if you haven't seen it, you should see it. If you've seen it already, don't watch it again, because it's probably better like in your mind, like as a film. And I'll be very critical in our spoiler section of why.
Sure.
But there's issues going on there. But no, yeah, I feel like this is like. People ask like, what is a sci-fi movie? Isn't a movie really just an action movie or a comedy or a drama or like whatever, horror? And I'm like, this is this is a sci-fi thriller. It is like based on a short story or like a fucking book. The whole point is like the sci-fi part, which as a movie sometimes like the action is kind of shoehorned in, the structure is kind of weird. Like there's a lot to like unpack about where it kind of stumbles for those reasons. But this is the kind of movie I think I kind of like.
I'm a big fan of the Body Snatcher style movies. I think those are really cool. I think it's fun when you're fighting people that you care about, because you're like, oh, I don't want to hurt them. Oh, but they have no reservations about hurting me. Oh God, do they have more powers now? What am I dealing with? There's something to unpack. There's like that whole mystery of like who's a bad guy, who's a good guy. It could be anybody. This is kind of fun.
And I think in like the modern era, a lot of that's been taken over by like, oh, he's infected. Are you infected?
Yeah.
Have they turned? Are they infected with the thing? Are you on their thing? But this is like aliens. This has a whole different bent to it. I don't want to spoil it too much. But,
we'll get deep into that into the spoiler section. So guys, if you've seen this or don't care, false over there. And if not, pull out now.
If you need a place to rent content, you better listen. We're Cannibal Video and we eat the competition.
All right, so here we are for the spoilers of The Puppet Masters. So The Puppet Masters has one of the most brilliant alien cover-ups I've ever seen in my life.
Oh God, yes.
Where the aliens land and then build a fake alien spaceship to cover up their alien landing by making it look like kids faked an alien landing. Okay.
And then it's like, come see the thing, LOL and everything. No, that's super smart. And I even loved how the kids are like, do you want to see inside? Only $1 more.
Care to see inside, sir? Only $1 more.
Well, that's a bargain, isn't it?
They're not like, you must go inside.
Yeah.
They're like teasing you with it. So like everyone who goes doesn't go in, so that it's not this reliable like churn. I was like, oh, that's so... Oh, was this a book? This is brilliant.
Well, because they have that we don't know about yet, that each one of them just fucking splits its atoms and keeps spreading constantly. So you don't need that many to go in there, because that's just gravy. The ones that are out in the world are already infecting their whole household, and then that household spreads to the next one. It does spread ridiculously fast.
2 weeks, there would be
more than 250 billion.
Yes, which is more. We get good like telescreen shots of like beep 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 of like things happening. I'm like, so nostalgic, good shit. Yes.
I do think like where it feels the most like a B movie is just the escalation of the film itself, not how fast they are spreading, because that does seem to make sense for how fast they are spreading. It's just like two kids are playing catch over a pond, and they have some like metal disc, and that seems like it's somehow tied in with all this, or is it just coincidental? I wasn't sure what that was supposed to be, but like it touches, there's like an electrical charge, and all of a sudden like, and I was like, okay, based on what the things happened later, whatever that was didn't seem to make sense to me, because it looked like a weird electrical storm of alien shit. Like it didn't look like a ship landed. It looked like
a bunch of little
contact
things.
Was just made or something. I don't know.
Yeah. No, and yes, that's actually part of what I like about it. I have a little spiel to deliver here. A lot of movies like this take place from like a very small perspective. You're in a small town, and you would follow like the small town. You have a ragtag, unlikely group, and maybe like the local sheriff is there. But like besides that, if there's military or like FBI government, they are like the real bad guys. And there's aliens, and there's a whole what's going on here, right? Then you have on the opposite end, like the big scale, Independence Day. You're over on it's California. Now we're in New York. Now we're in Tokyo, right? And you have like, Armageddon or something. We have to like unite as a whole planet against the aliens, and it's all big, and like the government's kind of like the good guy or something like that. This movie you're following, and you won't know this, I assume, but this reminds me of the Ghost in the Shell anime series, where you're following this weird. It's like the X-Files. It's like this weird shadowy group, but they're like, yeah, Mr. President, great, see ya, and like they keep doing their own thing. It's like separate, and the escalation, like you don't see things happening. They just are like uncovering this mystery.
I think that almost feels like a plot hole, though, because if you're a shadowy government organization that people have not heard of, then other people should be trying to solve the problem independently too, because the problem is obvious. There's something clearly happening. When whole battalions of the army go missing, I don't think that there'd be like, okay, let's wait on the guy and his friend. Wait, the whole world is swinging on this, like we could all fall to an alien invasion. Yeah, we're sending in Keith David and this jerk.
Look, reach, pull. Good.
That's it, and you're like,
no, but
what?
Yes, but that's the meme. It is like, we got this scientist from NASA, we got this other weirdo, we got this guy, and they're gonna somehow save the day.
But
exobiology.
Mm-hmm. It's a study of what alien life forms might be like.
You actually make a living at that.
It's
based
very
on the
funny,
knowledge
yes.
they have, and how if they took any member of the party, it would consume the knowledge of that person and totally end the mission, pretty much. It would make sense to send small groups, but you would send like 50 small groups that wouldn't know anything about each other. Like they should have, I would have liked if when they were there doing that final rescue mission, if they would have ran into other people also doing a mission. Like, no, we were sent to drop a bomb in the center of this blah blah. Where's like these different things should have been happening.
There's like one command center and they're doing their thing or whatever.
That's the problem.
But this is part of why it's like a throwback to like a old sci-fi serial like thing where it's like, and this is like the classic like one dude against like the world sort of thing where it's this
and I'm much
little
more
tiny group.
willing to go along with those things when it's like, it's one man against the whole world because the whole world is like taken over and that's the only guy or that's the only guy that knows it's happening, no one believes him, things like that. When you have the whole US government on board where they're like, what do you need from us, sir? What do you blah blah, isn't that? And they're like, I need someone to parachute me in there because I'm going in with this giant fucking gun. Like I was like, that gun looks like, is there like, look like there's like a thermal fucking thing on the top of that gun? I was like, is that to tell who's infected or not? No, they're all infected.
Forget that gun entirely.
They had these giant guns with these like box like shell catchers on them, and like Keith David uses his pretty liberally.
Got him, let's go!
But it's funny too because it's like after the moment where they're like, we can clearly save people and rip these things off them, and they're like, murder every one of these motherfuckers.
No, you're right. There's a scene where like Donald Sutherland says like, don't think of them as women and children. Think of they're like gone. And I want to be like, no, they're not. You have proof that you could save all those people.
The problem is the proof is inconsistent because our first guy, when what's the guy from NYPD or whatever,
Richard Belzer, he's so good.
Classic withdrawal symptoms. Much like you'd find in a drug addict.
Are you saying that he was actually addicted to having that thing on him?
When Munch gets it, he is like our case study. We're like, okay, they got it off him. He lived. Oh, you live. Oh, he's like a quadriplegic in depression now or something.
He's
it's terrible.
with
he's addicted
addiction.
to it.
Yes.
And the moment he doesn't have it, he kills himself in a very creative way. He blows air into his veins and gives himself a stroke or a heart attack.
I think the same thing happens in Apt Pupil, maybe, but like this stuck with me. I like remembered this. I didn't remember who it was or what movie it was from, but just this like squeezing the bag and then and then this person like dying. I was like, holy fuck! And yes, it's Munch. It's this great fucking. This is what I mean by like the structure is like that shit happens like immediately.
Yes.
There's no weird like figuring stuff out. Like someone's already infected, then someone else is already infected, then someone else has already been infected the whole time. Like there's this crazy trajectory that it goes through.
Where I was saying it goes off the rails like super quickly, where it doesn't explain things and feels like a B movie to me, is when they're at like the news station and all of a sudden we're being attacked and everyone's attacking us and like no one's questioning anything. When they get back to the car and Munch, and who obviously is already infected, and if you did not think he was already infected, you have to just be like, that guy's face was totally like, this is normal. Yeah, you just killed that cop.
Get in the car.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we just drove over a kid in a bike. We're doing everything. No one even said, there's aliens, run, Munch! Like, no one said a word to that guy.
So he's a high-tier operator, though. So I could have believed that he was
We'll
like...
just roll with whatever happens.
Because, like, they're on a mission. He's like, what am I doing, boss? All right, good. He's just doing his thing. I don't even know what his role in the whole thing
He's a driver.
before.
He smokes cigarettes and drives. That's his role.
That's what he's doing. But I don't know what his background is or whatever.
Driver, stay by the car.
All right, I'll keep it up there. I'll be waiting for you.
But yes, like it's brilliantly, I think, telegraphed. Because when they're in the car, everyone's like, "What the shit?" And Munch is just like, he's just sitting there.
Yeah.
Get him off the car!
Jarvis, help him!
Like, let's get this over with, right? It's very cool.
I was like, he's
that's
taken.
awesome.
There was no doubt in my mind. But what I was saying, so Munch gets taken, and that whole shit happens, and you're like, okay, so that's how it works. They can't be separated because it terminally ends their life. And then the son gets it, Donald Sutherland's son, the main character, arguably, who I hate his face.
Maybe that's why you're so lonely. Did you ever think of that? Maybe that's why your son resents you so much.
And he's not. I was like, it's the Other Wings guy. It's not the Other Wings guy.
Oh no.
I was like, oh fuck. I forgot that guy what that guy looks like, but I was gonna
Max Rager.
I was gonna super enjoy having the Other Wings guy in something, but no. It's a third guy who's not even a Wings guy, who sucks.
Hold up.
No, so that guy, he gets infected.
Yeah.
And like, he manages to get out with it. But again, he goes through like a depression thing.
He has a phase.
He has some problems.
It's okay. Okay, Sam.
Is it off?
Okay, it's off you. It's not on you anymore. It's not on you anymore. Okay.
It like threatens to stop his heart and do shit, but you're like, okay, people can escape.
Yes.
And then like the third person I think that we see get off it is the girl, and
the
like
scientist
literally
lady.
he just like holds her mouth, rips it off, and she's back to normal.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, if that's all it takes, why didn't
coughs a
you
little,
try to
yeah.
save it all?
No, like yeah, she coughs a little and shit, but that's very
That's because
much
she was near
like,
the influenza kid.
It seemed like he was suffocating her to make the thing like.
I
give
wasn't
up
sure
and leave,
what he was
right?
doing
What sort
because
of sexual kink he was
we didn't
engaged in there.
explain any of that to be like,
Yes.
oh, that's how it works.
Yeah.
So I don't know,
Right.
but. There's a lot of things that are really funny. I love there's one
Yes.
part where Keith David just punches one, like tries to dock with him. He's like dock with this. Welcome to
He's
Earth.
like,
and he just like
"Bitch."
punches it in the face and it dies. And I'm like, oh, is that all it takes?
He like donkey punches it because it's like facing the opposite way and it puts out its like tendrils and he just pops it. Yeah, it's great.
And it seems to just go down. And I'm like, okay. Love Keith David.
Well, he broke that man's spinal cord, so he's dead forever. Yes.
They breeze
yes.
over the final cure bit. They're like, was it influenza? What was the thing that actually killed it? Encephalitis. They're like, we'll put it in mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes.
Yes. Mosquitoes. We could just release infected batches over the areas controlled by the aliens.
And then it like flashes forward to when that already must have happened. I was like, okay.
No, like the ending. I forget. There's like a moment. Yeah. It's when Sam is like, "I'm getting married whether you like it or not, old man. You better fucking get get me kidded." And I'm out there, and he's like, "Well, take Keith David with you." It's this like that's when I was like, okay, the movie has like crossed over into like now the action is like officially shoehorned in, because up until that point, it's like Munch just going ha and like hitting people and like running, and people in suits getting like shoved down the stairs. Like it's very
the strength completely fluctuated away. When they had one enemy, he was unbeatable. Let's go! When they were fighting 1,000, we can just throw them away, just push them. We're fine.
But that's why that finale is like insane, where like things get ratcheted up so much, but it doesn't make sense. It doesn't feel good. We have like troops going in like it's aliens, and like the egg thing. It's not an egg, but it feels like the egg of the alien opening. They go and like hit it. It's like, oh, and there's like too many soldiers, too many infected people, too much going on, too much distance, too much like random
lots
shit.
Happening there.
It's like not good anymore.
I did like that, like it doesn't matter who you are, you could be a soldier in their army because like you're all kicked up to 100 once your nerves are ratcheted up. So like grandma with an AK is guarding the door. You're like, yeah, that makes sense. That's fine.
Absolutely.
Their whole base system though didn't make a lot of sense to me. Where I was like,
the docking station.
Yeah, well, like all that business that they had, because I was like, all right, so what even is this? Because I just interpreted it, I guess, differently, where it seemed like they travel with like no ship or something. They just like colonize the world and do this thing because of what we saw earlier. And maybe they had a ship, maybe they didn't, whatever. But like them building structures and doing things just seemed, I was like, well, what are they using to build that? They like that doesn't seem like Earth technology. That's like some weird organic like fucking Cobra Law shit. And I was like, that's cool, but it was weird. And then I expected there to be one bigger mama bug or something, because they're like, it's a hive mind all through one whatever. And when they get to that part with all the tendrils and out there uploading information, I was like, oh, that must be the brain bug.
That must be the big one. He's afraid.
It's afraid. It's afraid!
Yeah.
No. I think that I liked it because it wasn't that, and it, because like the individual parasites end up being like pointless and meaningless, and it is just this whatever. So I think in the beginning, all those little doodads might be a bunch of little ships, and that might be how they do it. But yeah, like what's probably in the book is explaining all this stuff of like, oh, they're like robbing biomedical facilities and like getting supplies or something to like do something. Because there's like
there's like a parking garage. Like what is?
There's like one throwaway line of like, oh, they're recreating their home planet, and that's like it. There's no whatever there.
What are they trying to do here?
Rebuilt their home.
Yeah. But no, I think as a kid, that was enough for me. I was just like, oh, this is cool stuff. There's something else going on here. I want to dig in. Or whatever.
The aliens themselves were pretty interesting. I like they have like a shooting tentacle thing. And, like it whips around humorously and like sucks on some water for a second and zips out.
Fucking... Well, so like that too, the like tone is so weird because in that first scene when they're like, what the fuck is that weird clam thing happening? Oh, like, blah, 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 it's doing its thing, but then it like grabs the ceiling fan, goes,
and spins around,
does that, and you're like, what am I watching? But it's played completely like flat
real straight,
and, like very very straight.
I think you could have really solved a lot of this by just being like, okay, army guys, we're going in shirtless. And it was like, all right, we're good.
There's
like
parts...
them not making everyone in the hunt for the thing not take their shirts off seemed ridiculous to me too.
There's parts where they show you someone's neck. And you're like, yeah, you would totally see where it is on your neck.
You best protect your neck.
You know, unless you were like wearing something weird. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, army guys might wear something weird. And in my head, if I want to like take this into like the 21st century, it's like, oh, you wear like neck protectors.
This way, man. That's a huge bitch.
to like keep it from doing it to you, and then they, appropriate the neck protectors to hide that it's already been done or some weird shit like that. But something, right?
I think that like that would be how they would try to defend themselves, but it does seem that it can latch on anywhere, take over your body, and then it gets into its docking position.
Oh, I didn't take it that way at all.
Because they shot the one guy like in his side, and then a moment later was on its neck. So like I think it shot. He went like did his like thing, and then the one guy walks in with the first person that gets taken over has like ones on his sides and like that are just like riding along to stay alive, and he like shoots those things off.
I feel like those are just like extra ones or whatever.
Oh no, they are. Yeah. They're just hitching the ride.
But they're not controlling anything.
No.
Right?
They're just catching some life just to hook on.
If you're talking about the army guy, that the angle is just wrong. I think when it like takes him off camera, kind of.
I think it's like
his neck or something.
I think it starts with like his leg or his side or something.
Going on
How I took it was like they can grab into any part of your nervous system just to jack you up real quick, and then they can take you over.
I don't know, but I would have protected my neck.
You best protect your neck.
And or been like,
in general, protecting the neck, not bad.
We have to show the neck to do the whole thing. No, like this succeeds as a thriller, I think, in a lot of places with that whole like take off your shirt and it's like uh-oh and all that stuff, right? It's very good.
I kind of would have liked Donald Sutherland to have been taken over much earlier in the movie, because he never does show his neck or his back. It could have been easily him the whole time pulling the strings, the puppet master. Exactly. It would have worked on many levels because he's pulling the strings anyway.
Yes.
But
that would have been the like 10 out of 10 where he's like the backup plan. So the ending of this movie, they like after like okay. So I think this would have worked better if it was more like the X-Files. Because like the climax of this movie should have been like figuring out the problem, guys in suits talking, scientists talking, and like because like this works as a long episode of like the Twilight Zone, or like the series finale, maybe like a 2-part episode, or like the movie of a show where it's like the show's been canceled, but they're letting us make a movie to wrap it up, and like it has that vibe. So like having it end
like an extra long pilot.
Like I read somewhere that David S. Goyer, who I think is the horrible DC guy who writes things and ruins them, wrote part of this movie and put in like the helicopter part and like the whole, because the climax has to be action and all that stuff. And Donald Sutherland's very charming and he sells all that stuff well, but the whole like fake out ending, we've solved it. But there was one more, and he impossibly infected Donald Sutherland, who then is obviously running around without his cane now, and then helicopter ride of like action ending, and I'm like, this sucks now. The
only part of that I liked was it's cool because he does have everyone's knowledge. Yes. So he's like, I can fly a plane.
I can fly a helicopter.
I can fly a helicopter.
Yeah.
Like, he was having a lot of fun with that, I feel like. And when he goes like oh, a gun. And then like automatic pilot. They sold like fucking things. I'm like,
oh, a gun. Automatic pilot.
Yeah, when he said automatic pilot.
Yeah, I'm like, okay.
But again, this is just the world not treating it if that's potentially your last alien threat that can reproduce so quickly, they would have blown it out of the sky immediately. There would be no like, let's try to save it. It would be like, no, motherfucker, we just lost Ohio or Iowa or where the fuck it was.
I don't think people know about it quickly enough because he just runs onto the helicopter and there's people down there like, what? And they're probably making the calls.
The girl should
probably
know.
But someone has to call someone. They have to go take off on their thing and fly over. It's
no, they're military. I would just be like, unload. It's still only 20 feet in the air. Fucking fire. Kill this motherfucker.
There you go.
Even the guy who jumped on the plane, I'm like, yes, it's your dad, and you did put a bullet in him, so you're willing to kill him too. Just fucking killed the whole thing. Can't risk this shit. Him knocking that thing off and it flying into the back rudder. I'm like, come on.
No. That's when it's like a different movie to me, because like as it goes on, I was super into it, and I'm like, I was wrong. This does hold up, and then I think that's how I watched it as a like young person. Was like, it's got some good stuff.
In a different
going
time
for
period, it would have held up in a totally different way, of course.
Yeah, but the ending, like certain movies, you walk out and like your brain has to like calibrate to like it started really strong, but then it got weird.
Yeah.
But I remember the strong part. I want to like it. It's good. There's cool stuff in it.
Now, even from like the very beginning to me, this was a high budget B movie.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh, okay, what do we got here? Because it just didn't have that same script that and it wasn't like it was something that was totally dependent on visuals or anything like that. So like if you would have upped that script just a little bit, I think you could have had a real movie, because the visuals weren't super important. I think you could have also scaled back on a lot of those bigger set pieces and just not even did them.
No, the action feels weird to me. It feels like there's too much.
You could have played
action.
the Screamers angle, just had like kids sieging things, like we can't shoot the kids.
Yeah, just do more off camera, make it more subtle, make it more about that tension of not knowing who's been God or what's happening or who can you trust.
We learned
all
too
those
much
things.
about them too quickly, I want to say, in this movie. I think if you would have taken a little bit longer, like if you didn't go to the, like if that alien didn't pull a gun out of nowhere at the police at the news station.
Be realistic.
I think, like, because he could have easily been like, okay, I'm busy, you have to leave, and like they wouldn't have gone to war immediately, and they would have had hours, which is enough to spread a whole other town, it seems.
Yeah. No, I like the escalation, but I agree that they
felt out of place.
Well, they go like, oh, we have to, like, the escalation felt good to me, where they were like, oh, like it seemed like the movie skipped parts that other movies would spend the whole movie doing, and it had this weird like vibe.
I agree with that, but I think some of those parts would have been needed to make it better. Like just that jump, because I feel like 4 minutes into the movie, we're like a half hour into another movie.
It felt really like that's the part that I might like the most about it.
Really?
Because like once even like Sam...
That felt lazy to me.
Oh, well, I disagree.
I know.
It's the part where, because like once Sam's infected and he's out there, and then you realize that Donald Sutherland has already figured out that he's infected, and they all like collapse on that. Because there's so many things where like other movies, someone in the group being infected is like the climax of like the turn of the movie, and this happens like 3 times in this movie.
Yeah, I guess
crazy.
What makes it really suffer for me is just that I don't give a shit about any of these characters.
Yeah.
Whenever he was working at home, which was most of the time, he'd give me a quarter for every hour I could keep quiet.
Or any ones you're supposed to anyway. Like the main character.
You hated the main dude, right?
Yeah, he did nothing for me. Right. Well, I thought he felt very flat. And I was like, eh. And the girl, well, like she's in other things, and I'm like, oh, okay. Like
she is the love interest in Tommy Boy. And she has that thing like your parents will cry when they see what I have done with you, or something like that.
Listen up, you little spazoids! I know where you live and I've seen where you sleep. I swear to everything holy that your mothers will cry when they see what I've done to you.
Yes.
But
so I'm like, yes, like you.
I don't know. In this, I was like, maybe sci-fi is not your thing. Like,
no one's doing a lot of stuff here, and even like people should have the opportunity here to be body snatched or like puppeteered, whatever, and like act very different. And a lot of times they're not acting that different. They have to add like an effect on their voice to like sell it. Even though I think Keith David would have been able to sell it on his own.
You wouldn't believe the fantasies my host has about you, Mary.
But like,
so Keith David, the character I like the most, I was like, well, you wrote him bad. Like that whole thing was like, oh, I'm sorry about that Armageddon guy. I didn't mean to make a joke about you having sexual relations with that alien.
Look, I just wanted to apologize for that comment I made back in the room. You know when I made that bad joke about you fucking the thing?
Holland!
I didn't mean it.
Let's go!
Thanks.
Like it's just like how he says it. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
That was weird. That was a weird moment. Yes.
Out of character, strange thing.
Yes.
And like the idea that like he's the actual army guy, and he's like, you wait over here. I'll go in there. Well, what even are you? You're like in this because your dad runs the program. Get out of here, jerk.
You're in here because of nepotism.
Kinda. He does. He seems inept most of the time. Most of them do, honestly. For like a big government organization, I'm like, this is handled very shoddily.
No, the only part that saves a lot of that for me is the timeline and how quick stuff happens, because that justifies to me a lot of like not getting like the other people in, or like we don't know who to trust, or like we just have to do this now, and it feels very like.
I definitely get what you're saying.
But the movie shouldn't be so long or like be structured the way it is, for that to really work, right? But like, yes.
I think like they may have lost me by jumping in so fast. Like, yes, you do jump in, you don't have to set up necessarily, but the fact that like you repeat kind of a process a couple times was like, one of our guys got infected in this thing. One of our guys got infected. One of our guys got infected. Like, it's like, I'm like, well, let something else happen. Like, do something. Use that extra time you've gained by not having this crazy amount of exposition. But when you recycle, like, section A and B and C are roughly the same, just a little bit escalating of the threat level, but also treating the threat like it's a bitch. Our first guy is the most dangerous guy, and that's when the threat was the smallest.
Who's on Jarvis? contains every emergency contingency that we've drawn up dealing with this type of crisis since '59.
And then when the threat's the biggest, we're fighting a whole shitload of guys, and they have no power level whatsoever. And we can just like, but I wrap a hose around the door. We're good.
No, I feel like this in the book maybe is something that's won by using science more so. And they win by science here, but they also have to add, I feel like somebody on the team, if it was not Goyer or whoever, was like, we got to push this action. And like the box has like, get ready for a bumpy ride. And like I was like, I feel like that's the wrong direction, that this should have been more of a straight thriller sci-fi thing. And the climax should have been Donald Sutherland's been like, infected the whole time, and he like pulls the gun. Not so fast, Sam. Yeah. You're like, wait, what? And that's like, and it's just like, as opposed to helicopters and army men and this crazy big thing.
There's the weird play up, like when they first get to the spaceship, the girl's like, the guys aren't behaving like guys.
All right, look, I know this doesn't necessarily qualify as scientific evidence, but a woman is used to a certain response from men when we meet them, and from those boys, I didn't even get the automatic.
This is the dumbest part. Yeah.
And like it's like a worse version of like when Triple X realizes that the diner he's in is fake. It's like, wait a minute, you telling me you're wearing high heels to a waitressing job? After 3 hours, your feet will be pancaked with blisters. This isn't real. And then I thought, if you're not real, well, that gun's not real. And it does that whole thing.
And if she ain't real, then this whole thing ain't real. That's how I knew that this bozo over here wouldn't get a shot off even if we waited to St. Patrick's Day.
But she just goes like, they didn't look at my tits.
Exactly.
This isn't real.
Based on what I was doing with my blouse, they should have tried to look down my top, something.
You wouldn't have had to try very hard. Sam.
Yes, doctor, like people aren't checking me out. They must
She's not even wearing like a crazy revealing outfit.
No, it's really
and I'm like,
weird.
What?
Yes. Again, I feel like in a book there's more time for the subtlety of this to get out there.
Yeah.
But she jumps on it so fast, like, because at that point they have no reason to believe anything is anything yet. So it's very strange.
Like noticing Munch wasn't smoking. That would be something
That's
like,
cool.
like, Munch, you don't smoke anymore? And maybe having smoke hurt them might have been a thing. Like oh, the smoke, they need the air. They're used to blah, blah. It's bad for the brain.
Well, and there's something going on that I like a lot, because the other guy that he infects takes his glasses off. Right? Where it seems to do stuff to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they might just instinctually be like, oh, that's poison. No, I'm not doing that, right?
Maybe.
Because he must remember that he smokes. So what the fuck is it doing?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, something. And had you made that, because then the guy not needing a cane would have been something interesting.
Yeah.
And it felt so tacked on. If he had been more subtly, like if there was like an explosion or like a loud noise, and he just runs a bit and then like doesn't like forgets to use his own cane in some more convincing way,
or doesn't turn at all to an explosion, just like,
or like various things. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, because he should be the smartest one who's learned the most. He's moderating his temperature. He's doing this. He's doing that, right? But then he finally fucks up a little. And Sam, because that's his father, he knows him the best, and he can figure out. Wait a minute, like, what are you talking about? Maybe have him be like, son, I wasn't fair to you, or something like that. And he's like, and then he pulls the gun, like, no way,
my
bitch.
dad would never say I did a good job.
Yeah, my dad's never told me he
you.
loves me. And pulls out a gun. Like in Total Recall, when the bead of sweat comes down, and Arnold realizes this is not what you're saying it is. Yeah.
A few things that I did like. I loved when the kid crashed through the front of the car and just goes like right into war mode, and you're like, okay, that, because they don't care about their body. Right. It's just about stopping the enemy there. I'm like, that's cool. I liked when they had our main boy like Jesus style trapped at a chair, and there's like an X-ray that you can see like how his weird spine is and where the monster thing is on
and
his
like
back.
The tendril going into his
and
brain.
him like.
And married.
Talking through him there, I was like, I liked that bit.
Again, very very reminiscent of Independence Days.
Can there be a peace between us? No peace.
The best thing that they didn't do right, I'm going to say, is eventually they want to do tests on it. So they've got it off of a human body successfully, and they put it on a chimp. And I'm like, I think the aliens should have been like, oh, this is the way better body to be in.
These are awesome.
They still took all the intelligence, because it's typing to him on a keyboard, so it has the collective knowledge of Iowa in a body that's way more powerful than any human. Yes. And you'd think that since they can take over any seemingly bipedal thing, it would be like, all right, we're going to take that chimp, we're going to go to the zoo, we're going to take a gorilla. and like how are you gonna stop that? Because
So, like,
they're
yeah.
immune to like the bullets don't really stop they're able to like maneuver a body that's injured because they're
care about the
working
pain, it seems
around
like.
it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Right.
So a gorilla body would be like taking punishment of all
listen.
punishments.
This is the Will Smith version, the modern remake that we want to do. Where like Will Smith's too old now, but you CG him up a little bit.
He is never
touch
too
him up.
old. The
Yeah.
Gemini Man.
Okay, that's true. That's what I mean. Just CG him.
Can't say Gemini right. It would make it too good.
CG away all of his not being quite young enough. But yes, that's the much more, had this been more action, go to the zoo, do something crazy like that, have a weird, because that's so interesting.
Because especially since they breed, like every 30 minutes they shit out a new fucking full-grown body of them.
something with DNA
I don't
shit
even
or
understand how
whatever.
it all works. Where like, why are there even eggs if they come out like fully alive?
This is how they reproduce.
Second adult parasite in minutes.
Vargas, get the old man on the line.
Why are there breeding tanks of water with them in it if they come out fully alive? Like,
So, okay, it seems like the water's where they hang out, and that's where they like live normally. They're like in like a soup.
yeah,
of,
because
like,
what do they say? They come
protein soup.
from the moon of Jupiter.
Titan, I guess, where there's like
I think that's what it said.
liquid. I don't know. Read the book. But yes, like they seem like eggs to me, but they're just folded up aliens.
What the hell are those things?
Right? And there's the cool scene where they've like shipped it in there, and like on a second watch, once you know Sam is infected, he says, "Do you have a crowbar?" And
Yeah,
the guy's
yeah.
like, "I got the keys, man. Come on, what are you talking about?" He's like wiping his shit, but he wants the crowbar to
Yes.
open up the like crate that he knows is in there.
Do you have a crowbar?
Oh, I got the keys.
And it's one of those like, oh, this is what Indiana Jones gets his relics in. It has like all the straw and shit in there.
I
It has the
immediately
things.
knew that guy was infected.
Yeah.
When they showed the vent and stuff, I was just like, they're
Wait a
not going to
minute.
make him lift his shirt? This seems very convenient.
Absolutely. Yes.
and clearly he is. Because that vent was the highest you could reach on a jump. I'm like, he jumped and punched that. That's what that is.
I lost it. It was too quick. It went up through there.
So I like to let a movie take me on its journey, but that was where there was a fork in the road for me mentally, where I'm like, okay, either we're not going to show everybody's bare back every 3 seconds, or he's infected. And then later on it like resolves to be one of the two or whatever.
The army goes in swim trunks, and you have no problem here.
Exactly. Just iron underpants. Just
saying.
run at it. Exactly.
I did love when they were literally mailing them, when they were putting the eggs in the mail boxes.
That's weird though, right? Because they don't have any sensory organs.
Don't need them.
That's very strange to me.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, a lot of things like conflict and whatever, but I was like,
It's
okay,
a great
that's
shot
fun.
because you're like, well, this is a rural place, more, different outskirts. Like, what's the plan? How are you gonna whatever? And then it's just like a family delivering papers. They just drive up like doo doo doo, and they each put one in a different mailbox. You're like, that's cute. That's good
It is
times.
cute. Little
Yeah.
girl even helped.
Yeah, he's showing her the ropes.
Jesus, I don't want to end up like that. Trapped inside of my own body.
This is probably just a pile of computers, and like Keith David was like, "Oh," and like throws them into it. I'm like, what was this room?
Not very smart, are you, Sam?
Yeah, that's where they dispose of all the computers.
I guess.
Oh, did they take all the computers from the entire building and like, we don't need this shit, and put them
It
there?
seemed like the building they were
Huh.
in though, most of what they were in was just like the parking garage part, and like the rest of it did seem like it wasn't touched very much, except for that last floor where Keith David and them like fought.
I'll talk to you, Sam.
Which to me seemed like on Nakatomi Plaza would be, that was under construction. That's the computer tower.
I like the idea better that they were like, we don't need this primitive machinery.
Well, they don't.
And they fucking throw it out. Yeah. Little Easter eggs in there. But I think also just a convenient pile of shit to throw him into.
Yeah, they just went to a perk center like, this will look good.
Did it seem like Keith David was even more powerful because he had more of them on him? Was that possible? He had more of them on him, right?
Did he?
I thought he had more like on other parts of him.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
So I thought he might be like the final boss who's got like extra. It was very weird. I'm assuming that, they just do that like we talked about, where he's just going to use one on him.
The whole
right?
thing just felt really weird to me, was especially like when they're fleeing that facility. The girl has the kid, and they're at the helicopter.
Bring him here! It's safe! It's safe! Come on! Where are the others?
Like they're like, we could leave right now, but she goes back to get the guy, and like the jeopardy the guy is in really is he's gonna get taken over and be an alien, right? That's like what presumably they're doing to everybody. Worst case, yes, he does die. Yeah. But they're about to be like, okay, we have a cure that's gonna make people come back alive. It's gonna be the penicillin of holding your mouth and pulling one off your back, and I'm like, why wouldn't you just leave that guy? Because if you went back, you are in jeopardy every moment you are on there. Okay. You leave, you get the cure, and you potentially fix everybody. But instead, you're like, nah, I gotta kill Keith David because he's a racist.
Thank you. I'm glad you said that at the end, because I was gonna be like, have you considered love? Have you considered that this whole movie is some sort of weird love story?
Her love of racism? I have considered it.
She loves killing black people. It's not. I'm not saying it. She said it.
No, I was really mad because Keith David was my favorite character, and she killed him for no reason.
He's not doing a lot in this, really, right?
Because he was infected.
And you mentioned that like the script is.
They gave him nothing. They gave him literally nothing. He had no cool lines.
My favorite character.
He had one bad joke that he said, "I'm sorry for."
Hemoglobin in oxygen transport, it uses a chlorophyll derivative.
Jeez, Graves. I mean, he sounds like he wants to fuck the thing.
Shut up, Holland.
My favorite character is Donald Sutherland.
Naturally.
Because
he's pretty good.
He's the best character in this movie.
Yeah.
It's really his whole thing. But no, like the whole thing, and that's going to take us to the end, right? Is like at the end, he's like, oh, you've seen inside my mind. And she's like, no, that's good. It takes men more time to open up. And they walk away holding hands and the credits roll. And I'm like, was this just a love story? This is crazy. What are you doing? So I feel like this may have gotten butchered. The guy who wrote this wrote Starship Troopers.
Yes.
This is like a famous sci-fi author.
Much prefer Starship Troopers.
There's probably a lot more in the book, and they picked certain things and then added movie shit on top of it, and now it turned it into this. Mm-hmm. But a fun nostalgic trip down memory lane for me.
I wonder if in the book it was so obvious that Donald Sutherland is the dad. I remember like
physics. What do you mean?
Well, like leading up to it, like when he's like, well, that's my dad.
A little tense between you two, huh?
Yeah, well, he's my father.
Or like something like that.
Yes.
I was like, a few moments earlier, I was like, that's going to be his dad. And he's like, that's my dad. And
Why?
I was like, just because of how he was mouthing off to him, I'm like, you don't mouth off to superior officers like that. No one's like, he's so good, I don't care. Like, fuck it, he can mouth off all he wants. The guy's a control freak, and you're like, he's like leaving you around here, and the way they was doing little pot shots, I was like, that's his fucking dad. I know nepotism when I see it.
Sure. I mean, it's got to be something, right? Because he's like,
Yeah, or a blackmail.
Sexual pictures.
Fuck this movie. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Let us know in the comments what you thought about it. Don't die in a fire, and we'll see you next time.
If you want to support the show, head over to cannibalvideo.com, pick up some merch.
And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button.
That's alright.
Yeah, that's something.
Whatever.
Fuck these motherfuckers.
Cannibal Video has everything you need. A wide array of VHS and DVDs. We ate the competition, now it's only us. Our expert staff opinions